everybody. How you guys doing?
Morning.
All right, all right. We got a bunch of builders in here. Or what?
I hope.
Hey guys, thank you so much for jumping on the call. Casey had reached out to me a day ago and asked me if I could just jump on this and have a great conversation with you guys. I put together a kind of like a class flow for us to kind of just stay on course. And so bear with me. I have some notes that are written and that I'm going to be sharing with you. And I've invited a couple of the builders in my org to participate in this conversation because what I wanted to kind of bring to the table today was a conversation around system building, right? And so it's been my experience that probably the most prominent way to build a system is through people. So the way that I've been exposed, or what I've seen in 4 years here at EXP, and building a decent sized group thus far, has not been done by my sole efforts. It's been primarily done through the efforts of my collaboration and partnership with just amazing with other amazing people. And so building systems is something that I had a little experience with. I came from government service, and for the last 10 years, I helped develop a few different entities and organizations within like Department of Homeland Security. And so I had a little bit of background on it, but it was mostly through kind of doing some headhunting and trying to attract talent, as opposed to building out salespeople. So it's a little bit different of a skill set, but I see that it's working here. So there's a couple elements that I want to share with you, and then I'm going to invite a couple of the other builders in my org to be able to contribute to that, because I think something that, like, Will and I discuss this all the time, is that if we can create a system that's duplicatable, then it starts to multiply, right? And sales, and you guys probably will all agree, especially for those of us that run solo sales business, it's very, very lonely, right? Very, very lonely to run in sales. Now this is a different business element, and building out an organization that's duplicatable, that's going to create revenue share opportunities for us, shouldn't be a lonely process. We need to find other people to be able to run with. And I had early exposure to this. I was in the Marine Corps in 4 years of my 22 years of government service, and probably the first thing that they taught us was the buddy system. Right? Find a buddy, find somebody to run with. And it's in the military, it's a little bit more extreme, right? You actually implement a buddy system, so that way you're never alone. You don't get shot, or if something happens to you, you got an exit strategy. But in this system, having somebody that runs parallel with you is very, very important, because it'll help you start to run your system on the most fundamental levels. And when you develop a system, then you get to run your system, especially if there's examples of success. And like, guys, we couldn't find better examples of success just within this organization. So if you simply look at your leadership, your senior leadership, you can see almost what your trajectory will look like, right? If you implement what is being taught and being shown to us, you can see that I know with a certain amount of time, I'm going to have 1,500 agents in my organization, or 3,000, but I have to implement the same system that's being taught to me, so that way it's duplicatable. Do you guys agree? Awesome. Also, just for the flow of the convo, if you guys have any questions or anything that you want to add to this, feel free to throw it in the chat. So then that way we can make sure that it's everybody's participating. Okay. Now I want to at this point, I do want to introduce you to two amazing leaders that I'm running with. It is Mr. Will Higgins and Cindy Keithley are both on the call. I invited them both to join. And the reason why I invited them was to open up this conversation about identifying people that you want to run with, and then how to add layers to that So then that way you build and grow. Okay. If you take a look at all the biggest organizations in EXP, not one person's ever done it by themselves, right? Not one person. And so you have to, and you hear all this conversation out there, especially within the alpha and beta groups, find generals, find people, that are going to be able to run with you. But I think it first starts off with more of a, who you want to be in business with, right? That conversation. And then developing a relationship. And then you'll start to find out that, wow, like not only do my principles and values are in alignment with this individual, they're also my friend, and I'm also building an amazing business with them, and it hits a little differently. Okay. I had invited my good buddy Decatur Thornton to this conversation, because the way this kind of would have flown is, I sponsored Decatur Thornton, who has around 500 agents in his group, and Decatur sponsored Will, and Will has sponsored Cindy. Okay. And here shortly, you'll hear from both of them about what was important for them and what their expansion has looked like. But simply put, Decatur was the first agent that came with me to EXP, the first guy. We didn't know anybody else in real estate. We were brand new to EXP and organizations. And the way it kicked off for us was just simply just staying in flow with each other throughout the course of the week. We really didn't have a system, to be honest with you. We were just kind of cross-referencing our conversations amongst ourselves and being like, who are you talking to? What does that look like? Introduce me to people. Let's get very intentional on social media. That's where most of our growth occurred. And so it simply started like that. And it really wasn't until Decatur developed a relationship with Will, where Will came in, and Will already had some kind of structure and background on what he thought could build out. And so as we start to collaborate a little bit more, then we started to refine a little bit of our process. We started to, become curious about what other leaders in EXP were doing. And slowly and surely, we're kind of picking apart what's working for us. And I would say now, really, right, Will, about a year and a half into this relationship, 2 years, there's a lot of momentum that's picking up. And now we're starting to see like these other amazing individuals and leaders like Cindy. And even on this call, we have Brian, and we just introduced Javon's on this call. We have some great people that are starting to plug in, and they're starting to see the duplication and the success measures as well. So, Will, go ahead and introduce yourself really quick, brother, and share a little bit about what we're talking about, please.
Yeah, guys. So it's funny we're having this conversation because the other Joseph and I were J Street. We were talking about this yesterday. Like, you gotta find somebody to run with. You know what I mean? And Cindy and I talk about it all the time. We're gonna be neighbors in Puerto Rico. we're gonna vacation together. But Brent has Gene. Mike Sherrard has Connor. Like, everybody has somebody. So this is not a solo sport. You know what I mean? So you have to find somebody. And the beauty of this is you get to pick who you want to be in business with. You know what I'm saying? And not often are they going to accept, but the ones that do, this is going to mean everything to them, because if done right, this will change your life and whoever decides to come with you. So with that being said, my name's Will. So I've been at EXP just over 2 years, and I saw it. I saw it immediately, and I said, I want that. I still had to sell a lot of homes, but I did that. My goal was just to come in and check all the boxes. But the rev share always back to my mind, like this is it. So my organization is just about to hit 200. But we just brought on another individual who'll probably speak later, Joseph, who recruited 90 people in the last 7 months at KW. So he's primed and ready, so he's my local running partner now. So figure out who you want to be in business with, guys, and just start talking to them. It may take a year, it may take 2 years, but just keep going, because you're one person away from everything changing.
I love that, brother. I love that. Thank you for sharing. And, you also developed a relationship with our our OKC partner and running mate, and she's on the call. Cindy, thank you for jumping on with us and just being able to share with the group.
Sorry, I don't know where I went for a second. Hi, guys. My name is Cindy, and I'm based here in the Oklahoma City area. And yeah, just a little bit about how I met up with these guys is I had been in real estate for a few years, but previously, kind of like both of them, I had run my own business for several years in the corporate world and then on my own. So I was very successful at real estate because it's just kind of innate once you are in a role like that. And then I got extremely worn out, as we all do, with selling houses and all the things that come with it. So when I saw the EXP plan, just exactly like Will, I was like, I get it. This has got to be there's got to be a better way to do this without exhausting yourself and for a long-term goal. And what I'm doing right now in real estate is not going to work. So, I was used to kind of running my own business. And then I did see that, that's way more difficult. Just because you have all of these people supporting you. And it is so much easier to do it with somebody and with multiple people. And ever since I learned that, it's not been easier, but it's definitely been more fun. And I've learned so much more than just trying to do it by yourself.
By far, one of the easiest calls, right? After the first call, Cindy was like, I get it, I'm joining.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And we have a couple other layers here, and I'm going to invite some of our other partners here to tap in, but I wanted to just kind of create a foundation as well. So one thing that was very unclear to me when I came in was like the direction, right? And so I want to give you guys a couple key things that I've taken away over the last couple of years that I think can kind of set the mental tone for what you may or may want to do, because all of us are in different levels. Some of us may have one agent, no agents. Some of us, there's a gentleman on this call, guys. Steven, I'm gonna put you on blast. He's on a letter of intent. He hasn't even joined, but he's already introduced me to 5 or 6 different agents. And so he's coming in already with the mindset of wanting to build and grow something amazing, right? And so kudos, because again, some people do get it. Now, here's a couple little key things I want to share with you guys real quick. If you guys want to write these down. Number one, you got to give yourself some time. Okay. I thought this was really important because I wasn't really a big believer in rev share, to be honest with you. I came in because of the stock. But if somebody had told me, hey, it takes some time to build something out, I would have had a little bit more clarity, and I wouldn't have been so keen on comparing my success to others. Okay, so it's just like basic training, guys. For me, this is all my reference. So I'm gonna give you guys all the military stuff, right? So it's like, think about the Marines or any great, military, company, right? So they take men and women from all walks of life, and within a structured amount of time, right? Structured amount of time, 4, 8, 12 weeks, whatever that looks like. Everybody comes out with the same objective. Okay, it's basic training.
And lady, are you calling about a new
And we
request?
provide that here. So simply, I know with Empire Builders, if you're on the team website, on our team website, we already have the pre-recorded calls. Everybody talks about the foundations that we need to implement, right? Writing your list, third-party validation calls, like a lot of the basics have been laid out for us. So then it becomes our duty to be able to implement and be actionable on those. Number 2, okay, and we're talking about this right now, is you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. Really big difference when it compares to sales. Really big difference. So that's why this conversation about finding a buddy, like honestly, like I would love if all of you guys could put in the chat, if you have a structured partner that you're running with, or a few of them here at EXP. And if you don't, I highly suggest that that be something that you focus on coming into the new year or immediately. Find somebody that shares the same vision with you, that can hold you accountable, and that you guys can have conversations through weekly. Okay. And that's how you can at least start to build a decent system. Number 3, again, we talk about it all the time, is the discipline, right? The systems that we create or that have been created for us are useless. They're completely useless if you don't follow them. Okay. I literally, like, complete vulnerability, I didn't create my 100 list until last year. 3 years into EXP, didn't create it. You know why? Because every time I start it, admittedly, when I get down to like 20 people, I would start to think why this person wouldn't want to have a conversation with me. So there was already a little bit of self-doubt implemented in my process of developing a list, instead of developing a system where, like, the way I got to 100 was I simply did this. I took, let me take 20 people from Instagram. Let me take 10 people from IG, 10 references, 10 people that I meet at NAREP, and slowly I developed a list of 100. Okay. And now I'm continuously adding to that list. So the discipline part is not just being the actionable, but making sure that you're implementing a system that's going to be able to work for yourself. Okay. Number 4 is, and I wrote it down as, it's kind of like the spirit of the system, right? You have to believe in it. You have to believe in it, because in those initial conversations, even if you're doing it via text, it's weird that people can sift out the BS. And if you don't have that belief system in yourself, then it'll be lost. And like Will and Cindy, you know, some people have to see it to believe it, and other people believe it before they see it, if that makes sense. So you're going to get, you know, both sides of the equation there. So believe in it. And then lastly is probably the most important part, is the trust element, right? So when you build a system, a cadre around people, the most formidable part is trust. So your one partner that we're talking about has to trust that you're going to hold them accountable, has to trust that you're going to have conversations. Because when you start to break that trust and you're no longer having those conversations daily or bi-weekly or whatever schedule you've set upon, then you'll find yourself going several weeks without a conversation. And then you start having crinks in the armor. And then it kind of goes to shit, to say the least. Okay. And then lastly, number 5 is having a goal of greatness. So and what I mean by that is, like, even for me as an example, I had heard of people that had 500 agents, 1,000, 3,000. So I overextended myself, admittedly, like on my goals. I grew pretty quick to 500, and then I was like, I'm going to have 3,000 in the next year. And when that didn't happen, when I didn't even have half of that, I was kind of hard on myself, right? And so I started to take myself out of momentum. So I would set some reasonable goals on what that looks like for you. But as you start to develop a system, you can actually make this quite predictable. I believe you can really make growing an organization very, very predictable. And the way that I'm implementing that is based around conversations, right? So I'm going to open it up here shortly, but I'm on a 5 conversations a day basis. So that's something that's been working for me. And sometimes I fall short, but other times I'll try to make it up and keep myself in check. And then the accountability of running with other individuals is really what's keen. So Will, really quick, I know that, you know, we've been building out on social. Share with us, how does social media tie into this, and do you think it's one of the strongest platforms to build?
Definitely. From day one, I knew that I was going to use social, but again, it took time. So, and how social media plays is it social media creates traffic, right? And that's all it is. It creates traffic. It gives you attention, and volume at scale. So now instead of one to one, now I'm one to many, but I just have to have the right funnel, the right bait for them to come into my world. So there's people out there that want to work with you. They're enticed or enthralled by what you're doing. They just have no means of connecting with you, right? Because most people they see on social media that are putting out content, it's almost like TV, right? Like I can't, if I'm watching, I don't know, whatever. If I'm watching, Fresh Prince, I can't just talk to or connect with Will Smith right then and there. But with social media, if you do it right, it allows you to do that. So one of my number one sources right now is YouTube and Instagram. So I created a video why I left Keller Williams. That thing has almost 6,000 views now. I get 2 agents that reach out to me every week from that one video that I created 8 months ago. And they join.
Yeah, those videos that you're creating, Will, I mean, they live there forever. So they're just constantly recruiting for you, right?
Yep. They're literally constantly recruiting for me. So video by far, guys, has been the most important thing because I'm not cold calling. People are reaching out to me and then I'm just tapping into them. So I have a guy, is Randy on? Randy joined. Randy's on right now. Randy joined from I think maybe Instagram, and then he went to my YouTube and he joined. And then I asked Randy, hey, who do you know? And then he said, hey, I know this guy named Joseph that would be amazing. And then here's Joseph. So I would say, hey, put the content out there, guys, because people want to get to know you. They want to work with you. They just don't have an invitation or a path, And as long as you lay out the path, they'll come. They'll follow it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Now and just for clarity, guys, like within our group, we actually have a lot of builders that this is actually like our second career. We come from different backgrounds, right? We come from different backgrounds. So as you're starting to look for, talent in other individuals, I think it's important to kind of also, just like we do with buyers and sellers, we need to be able to identify like who are we going to be closest in relationship with that is going to see the same vision as us, that is going to be keen. So Cindy, really quick, my friend, I know that was something that you wanted to touch on about, identifying individuals that, may be able to be great partners with us. What has worked for you?
Yeah, so when we were talking about this, I've been thinking about this long and hard because I have my list of agents, but I think over the course of my almost 2.5 years at EXP, I've learned that everybody may be, great to be a realtor, but not everybody is great to be a builder or a leader in this avenue, EXP, which is fine. But in order to identify those, what I've started looking for is people who know how to run a business. So there's a very big difference between entrepreneurs and business owners. Most realtors consider themselves entrepreneurs, but I would say there's a lot of realtors that do not have the business owner mindset. So those are the people that I am trying to seek out that are self-motivated, that take the resources available to them and they, take off and they're self-starters. And they're also looking for ways to help others, even if they don't benefit from it, just because they're a natural leader. So those are some of the things that I'm looking for.
I love that. I love that. And we have a few other of our, team builders on this call. Will, did you had mentioned you wanted Joseph or Giovanna to mention something?
Yeah, well, I think Javon's driving. Is Javon on?
He is.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, I'm on. I'm
Javon's been
driving
on a
right now.
tear. So Javon's been on a
Yeah.
tear. So yeah, man. So if you could possibly chime in, dude, and just let people know kind of what you're doing, and because
Yeah.
he's mainly using social media. He's just DMing folks and getting in the
Yeah.
conversation, and then just
Right.
following the process.
Yeah. For me, like you said, I am using Instagram predominantly, and I am DMing everybody. At first for me, it was something that was scary for me. Just getting in people DMs and being a complete stranger. But then when I reversed my mindset, as if like I'm just giving the information to people, and then I was able to actually talk to people a lot more. I have a lot of more conversations, and I believe it's coming from a point where people have to resonate with you. People have to understand the motto as well, and kind of just be willing to do something a little bit different. But having those conversations, just being like a big brother or someone who's been in real estate for a long time and approaching it that way, I felt that people are more likely to open up and be willing to make that change when they can resonate with the person.
And I want to congratulate Javon because he's receiving his first rev share check this month of over $1,000. So
Yes,
that's
yes.
that's amazing, right in time for Christmas. Another person, I don't know if Melanie's on, but Melanie's been with me since the beginning, and she's literally just starting to catch fire. She's operating in 2 markets, and women are starting to reach out to her now. Melanie, you there?
Mm-hmm.
Melanie, you there? I see her on the call, but she's not there. Okay, no worries. No worries. Back to you, Joe.
I love it. I love it. And thank you all for jumping on and with that contribution. There was actually a very specific, let me look at my note here, a very specific tactic that I wanted to share with you guys. And I'm sure there'll be different trains of thought when it comes to this, but what I love about Will and Cindy and what I'm starting to see with some of the other builders in our group is that they're building laterally versus vertically. Okay. And what I mean by that is they're building more relationships directly with themselves than relying on others to build for them. That was one of the key mistakes that I made. I didn't implement a lot of personal relationships, let's say across for terms of building, right? And so and what was a really eye-opener for me is I have a close friend of mine who works at this big MLM company. He's a senior vice president for that company. And I talk to him all the time about this stuff. One of his close friends is Ed Milet. You guys know who Ed Milet is, the motivational speaker? Yeah, this guy used to he went over to Pat Bet-David's group recently, my best friend, but he used to run all of the Las Vegas events and stuff with Ed Milet. So that just for reference. And so he shared with me this thing that was an eye opener for me. And he kind of put it in my reference. He says, what's easier to do in your business when it comes to housing as an agent? Or let's say you had to find 100 livable units for people, 100 livable units. Is it easier to build 100 individual homes? Or is it easier to build a high rise of 100 livable units? It's much easier to duplicate individual homes because it requires less infrastructure, less planning, less manpower, right? Do you guys agree? So when I started to think about my business like that, and he just shared this with me about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago. I'm like, dude, you should have told me this from the beginning. But it's much easier to develop relationships and find and implement that kind of structure across. And once you build across laterally, then the vertical will start to occur on its own. And that's something that I've been keen and noticed is like through Decatur and Will and Cindy and Joseph and Brian and everybody else, all Felix Hung, I'm starting to create what they call legs, right? You're starting to create legs in your business. And now my number one job is to support and help build those legs through my dedication to them to help build and grow and create duplication. Does that make sense? But it starts off with a running mate. It starts off with finding that buddy that is going to be able to be in conversation with you. I mean, to this day, 2 years in, pretty much without fail, Will and I jump on a call, and it isn't as structured as you may think. It's simply just checking on each other. It's a goodwill call, but there's also a business conversation, what you got planned, what you got going on, what you got cooking. And sometimes I get off of those calls, I'm like, damn, we're just ultra competitive too, right? I'll just be like, damn, he has like 5 meetings set up and I got 2. I'm like, I'm slacking, man. I got to step up my thing. I'm simping over here. So it's good to have that. So if you don't have that, certainly implement it. But what I would love to do for, like, maybe the next 10 minutes, and then we can create a conversation around it, is let's open it up. Like, let's get some feedback about what's been shared. Or you're welcome to pick any of our brains about what's been working for us as well.
Can I add something? So when I tell people that I'm meeting these people through Instagram and social media, they're like, "Oh, what's your script?" Javon's on, Maisha's on. I can tell you the script that I'll use. You guys ready? You ready? Yeah? Hi, how are you? That's it. Hi, how are you? That's it. That's literally the script. And then we start conversation. How's business? That's literally it. That's the script. That's what I've used. So it's no rocket science, guys. It's literally just starting a conversation. They know you're at EXP. They know.
Yeah, it has to be easy, right? So I've seen tons of scripts out there, and they sound good in theory. They sound great in theory, but I don't know. Most of them haven't worked for me either. Social has been another huge platform for me, specifically Instagram. And so I think out of I've personally recruited 52 agents to EXP, and on my front line. And so I would say probably 70% of those came from Instagram. And it was being intentional about who was liking my messages, who was responding to my messages. And that's how I created my list of 100 people. Was every time I seen somebody in there, and I would, spend some time looking at them. That looks like a great agent, right? We pass judgment super quick, especially on social platforms. But I would add their name to my list, and I wouldn't always go in for the kill, but there was a lot of times that I did, and you get rejected. But it's okay, because at least it starts a conversation. So if how many of you are implementing social media recruitment at all? Okay. And for those of you that are not, if you wouldn't mind sharing, what's one of the obstacles for you to not want or have not implementing that? Haven't been taught, no idea what to say. What do you think holds you back from doing that? Go ahead, Debbie.
Actually, I had a question about something else. But I think in regards to your question, I think I get kind of scared away from doing any kind of agent attraction on social media because of the restriction of paying for ads on it. And then I just kind of go, oh, okay, can't do that.
Got it. So do you mean that you paying for ads, meaning you put a purposeful ad out there and then posting it or boosting it, or paying for Facebook ads behind it? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, we're not supposed to do that, right? We can't do paid ads for agent attraction.
Okay. Yeah. So let's cover that here shortly. You can, but it has to be compliant, right? So
Right.
there's a compliance conversation behind that. Now, what I was referencing was something more organic that's duplicatable. And that's simply, responding to, the flow that you're seeing in your social media, and people that are liking or creating conversations that you don't have to pay for. So the one that I had mentioned that's been working for me is not paid whatsoever. It's literally putting out content that creates conversations and then following up on those to create a conversation specifically about EXP. But go ahead and ask your other question, Debbie.
So my previous broker is now, I have a feeling it's because of the whole NAR lawsuit deal that's going on. They're implementing all these new fees that buyers brokers are going to be required to pay. They already have like when I was there almost 3 years ago, it was $79.95. Now it's $99.95. They have a fee that every seller has to pay. Nobody really knows what that fee is for. And so it's hard to present that to the sellers. And so now they're implementing like a fee of over $300 to the buyer's broker. And I know a lot of those agents are super pissed off about it because it's already right now in my market hard enough to get offers on a listing. Because a lot of the homes here haven't been improved and people want top dollar for something that's been the same for years. And
Right.
so I know a lot of the agents are upset. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, I know a lot of these agents. I need to reach out to them. What would you recommend? It's a family-owned brokerage, but they have like 10 or 12 offices. So they have several hundred agents. I still know some of them I know are never going to leave. They're just, that's where they are and that's how it is. But how would you recommend approaching those agents? Because they're tired of all the fees. They're tired of the huge commission splits and there's no consistency in commission splits. I was told everybody starts at 50-50 and then I started at 65-35. There's no consistency. I know another guy that had never sold a single home and he started at 90-10 and I don't even know why. I, at least when I started with them, had a 1.5 year history under my belt. So
Right.
there's a lot of factors I can really plug into, but how would you approach that?
So do you have a relationship with the broker?
They got pissed when I moved to EXP.
Oh, okay.
We had a 3-hour exit interview and they basically like ripped me apart about leaving.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like they would probably be an excellent candidate for some of the programs and incentives that EXP is offering right now, right? Through the recruitment, through Thrive and the other programs. So if you can integrate a way to have a conversation about that, then I think that would be a good first step. All these conversations, it's not a conversation. It is a process that you have to walk individuals through. And again, I would encourage you to kind of determine where you're at in that process with them. If it's just a bunch of agents that you know that are going to go under a change, all these companies are going through changes right now. There's very few that have kept the same business model, and EXP is one of them. So there's a lot of, conversation and value add that can be had with those. But if you're going to chip away one agent at a time, that's a tough feat.
Yeah, it would be more on an agent to agent basis. The broker they've been well established in the area for, I don't know, 65 years or something like that. Family, generational, it's been passed down to from generation to generation.
Right.
But it's like their greed is getting even greater as the times seem to get more difficult. And I just don't see how they're justifying all the fees that they're charging their agents. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you my perspective is I stopped giving energy to what's happening in other companies and what the turmoil may be there. Like I have created some distance between myself and what they may be encountering. And I have been focusing more on just building the relationship with these agents and trying to figure out, what pain points they may be encountering and being solution based in those conversations. And then when an opportunity present itself to have a conversation about how this company can change that for them, then I start to plant those seeds. And then I follow the process that I've been taught. And what that process is, getting them a little educated on the conversation about EXP and then I start introducing them to my senior partners. That's the process that's been working for me. And what I have found is 9 times out of 10, when you introduce an amazing person to a superior model, and they have an experience of several different leaders, that it becomes real for them to want to make a change. So that's been my experience. Anybody else want to add to that? Something that's been working for them?
Hey, Joe.
Yes. What's up, Steven?
Hey. I'll jump in.
Go for it, brother.
Well, it's nice to meet everybody. And I'm very, very new to EXP. And that conversation really resonated with me because I have probably 10 years experience in the real estate industry, but not as in this part of the real estate industry, which is this buying and selling. I've been on asset management and acquisitions and development. So now we're coming over here, and it's funny because before this conversation, before this meeting, I would not have thought that there was a challenge to recruitment. Matter of fact, had I never come here, I probably would just kept recruiting without even thinking that there's a challenge to it. I thought it's a no-brainer. Like, of course, you know, when I met Joe, I had a list of brokerages I was going to interview, and then I saw the video, and then I spoke with Joe, and I'm like, I don't need to shop anymore. It's a no-brainer. So I kind of went into it with that. So now that I'm here, I see that there potentially is some pushback or some kind of challenge to recruiting. But like I said, I would not have thought that there was even a challenge to it, and that there would even have to be strategies around it, you know. So that's interesting because I'm going to keep going with this mindset that like there are no challenges.
Cover your ears, Steven. Just cover your ears. This conversation never happened. Log off now.
Yeah. No, for sure. Because really, I'm in California. I'm in LA County. And you can be in any elevator and bump into a realtor, a licensee we have a ton of hobbyists, you know, like all my family and friends are realtors because they're school teachers or whatnot. But they sell a house a year to their cousin, right? So it seems to me like this is the obvious solution if they want to grow that business. So I'm just kind of curious, like, what is the main reason why anybody wouldn't want to do this? That's just an open question to everyone, you know.
Anybody want to take a stab at that? What have you guys heard? What's the number one reason?
I can give you a million, man. You
I
got
know you could.
a long list. So I'll give you a couple, guys. So the first one is they're comfortable, you know, so the people get extremely comfortable. So not everyone has an entrepreneur mindset. They're more of an employee, you know, so they're where they at. Also, this is a social thing for them. You know what I mean? They're not here to sell houses. They're here to hang out with their friends. So socially, all their friends are where they are. Number two, they're chasing fame and they feel like they have to be at a Beverly Hills, whatever brokerage, because they want to be luxury. And that's the only way to get there is to use somebody else's name. Number three is perception. So they think that EXP is just recruiting. They don't think we sell homes, you know? So that's going to be the biggest one. And then also not just perception of the company, but perception of other people. Some people feel like one bad apple is a representation of the whole company when it's 90,000 agents, you know? So they're looking for a reason that EXP is not correct. Another reason is they're just late adopters, you know? So some people are on the end of that scale, and they just will never try anything new, you know? So that's just a handful, but we could go on for days.
Oh yeah, for sure. One thing that I wanted to interject, and Stephen, thank you for bringing that up, brother, was and again, you'll hear it in different conversations, right? There's always going to be obstacles, and no matter what we're doing, right? But what I love what Steven did is, like, I explained the process to him very simply in a few conversations, and he implemented the system of what we talked about, how to work that out, right, Steven? I told Steven simply, right? And it's the KISS method. Have you guys heard of the KISS method?
Keep it simple.
Yeah, keep it simple, stupid, right? So I told him very simply what to do. I told him, create conversations, keep them short. Keep them short conversations about opportunity. He knew the video, he watched the video, so we used the tool, right? Steven, you've been sending the video to everybody, right?
I have, and
Okay.
the thing is like I said, I've been in sales my entire career and different industries, and we have a couple other companies aside from this new venture. And I've realized that I automatically, or all of us automatically place a barrier because we identify those objections. And so we kind of personify those objections as that these are the things we overcome every single day, those objections. I came into this with no objections. I just thought no brainer, and so to your point, Joe, I just launched into it and started talking to people and like, hey, come on board. Like, this is the cruise ship. Let's go, and that's why I didn't have any outside of people who just didn't respond, who I'll follow up with. I didn't get any like, no, why would I do that? They just came on board. They just did it because it just made sense, so.
And you will encounter that, right? So as you continue to have hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of conversations, that'll happen. But what's been working for you, and this is what I think is important for us to take away from this call, is it's not all about you, right? It's all about a system and duplicating that. So, and I just put it in the chat, guys, keep it short, plant a seed, keep it super simple in that conversation, right? You don't need people to memorize everything that you're telling them on the first shot. Implement a tool. Okay. I suggest very few of us are going to be knowledgeable enough or skilled enough at the presentation. So that's what that tool is for. If you have somebody in your leadership that can do the presentations for you, I know there's a lot of groups out there that have dedicated events that are doing presentations or introductions that you can make for people to have those conversations for you. That's the power of duplication there. Okay. Speed is probably the other most important element. Is when somebody tells you that they're interested, don't put them on the sidelines. Like, you have to be urgent in your business. The introduction has to happen immediately. Create the calendar invite. Make sure that they're in flow to have that conversation, because the steam will fizzle out quick. Okay. The steam will fizzle out quick, especially when you're recruiting high-level agents and entrepreneurs. Trust me, they are in flow with other conversations with other people out there. Okay. You're not the only one on the table. And then lastly, that's what creates duplication. Leverage your senior leaders to help you build this out with you. Okay. Don't take it on yourself. Will, you wanted to add something real quick?
Yeah, it's just like taking a listing, right? So if somebody says, hey, I'm ready to list my house, are you going to tell them, you know what, wait, I'll be over next week. Let's schedule that for next Monday. Or are you going to have that conversation now? Because the sooner you have that conversation, the sooner you can put the house on the market, the sooner you can get paid. It's the same thing with agent attraction. The sooner you have that conversation, the sooner you can move them down the line, the sooner they could join, the sooner they can introduce you to all the people they know, the sooner your organization can grow.
Question or statement first, Stephen. Yeah, I agree with you. Biggest no-brainer ever. Joe or whoever, as far as the videos that are going out, are we still using the Brent one, or are there other ones that we're going? Are we sending ones based off of personality? I still send out the Brent one, but if there's something better, I would like to know what other people are doing.
So yeah, no, I still send out the Brent one myself. But however, Will and I have had this discussion. There comes a time when we need to be our own Brents, right? We need to have our own material that is referencing. So, and not everybody, that's not completely duplicatable, but that's why the Brent video exists. And that's why there has been such massive attraction because of that video and using that tool. So I know there's that also that one, that other one that's really good, right? Which one is
Allison,
Allison,
there's
yeah.
a lady named Allison Gaddy, like hers is really good, but you know, now I just use my own because it's like this. Again, listing. If I'm going to the listing presentation, it's my listing. Am I going to send Joe? Or am I going to go on that listing appointment?
I'll take it. But yeah, but
Cindy has her hand raised.
and Will's that talented, right? He's gonna have his own, you know, EXP explained here shortly. But it's when we're talking about duplication, it has to be something that is already in place, that's been developed. It certainly has, and it's accessible for us to use. So highly encourage you to continue to use that if that's the tool that you want to reference. Cindy, you had a question?
Yes. So, well, I was just going to touch on something that you said, Joe. One of the points that you made during our call was trust. And I was just going to point out with Will helping me, he's every day he says, you just got to get louder. You just got to get louder. Well, what I'm realizing is that I didn't trust that I was myself a big enough agent or, you know, a good enough recruiter. I think that's kind of been a barrier for me. And so kind of getting past that of, I trust myself that no, I haven't been in real estate as long as some of these other big agents, but I do know how to sell. I do know how to run a business, and that's all I need. So, you know, with his help and really with this prodding, which is very uncomfortable a little bit, you know, I've been learning to get louder and to trust myself. So I think that is a lot of our barriers, and maybe this can help someone else, is it doesn't matter if you're not the biggest and the best, you can still be loud and people will be drawn to that.
I love that. I love that. One thing I wanted to touch back on what Brian had mentioned was for that presentation, Brian. Well, I'll tell you what really digs deep to build relationships is a presentation is great, but the best presentation is your story, bro. Best presentation is your story. So if you could find a way, especially on social platforms, guys, this is what's crushing it, is when people hear the authenticity of your story, of your journey, what's working for you. Doesn't matter where you're at in that process, it's going to resonate with people. And that resignation is going to create relationships, and those relationships will turn into opportunity.
And Brian, you have a hell of a story, man. You just have to get comfortable being uncomfortable telling that story, and people will resonate with it, because, you know, we think that we're alone in this, but everybody's dealing with the same stuff, man. Everybody's dealing with the same stuff in this business, man. So you got to get comfortable articulating that story. And by far, that's probably one of the first things I did. So before I even started, I coached with Casey. That's literally the first thing I did. So I hit the ground running. I coached with Casey. So and that was the first thing we worked on is my story. But here's the good news, guys. What we had to pay for is now there for you for free on the website. You just haven't watched the videos.
Yeah, in those videos, that was like one of the first things Casey taught us, right? Is creating our story, because our story creates our vision, and that's what people buy into. And when that vision is strong enough, that belief structure will have them buy into us. So we have 3 minutes left. Time for one last quick question, and then we'll close this baby out. Any last comments, questions, contributions?
Can I contribute one more time?
Go for it, Steve.
So, you know, when I got licensed, walked out of that building, they said, don't open it till you exit the elevator because you don't want to go ballistic if you failed. And it was like walking into, okay, so what's next? Like, what do I do next? And my friend has an independent brokerage. It's literally, you know, a mom and pop. And he said, just join me. And I said, sure, because I didn't know what to do. And that's why I'm so baffled why like so many agents wouldn't just do this. Because I just was like, yeah. And I just jumped on the wagon that had no missing a wheel and one horse, you know, and limped along for a year. And so when I did my research and, you know, I had some influences, I was brought on to EXP and I said, well, this is like, why wouldn't you? So anyways, I just want to express that because when it comes to recruiting, I feel like a gazillion people left that building that day with, okay, what's next? Keller Williams, Remax. They have no funnel where to go next. And when it comes to recruiting, to me, I want to grab all those people who have no direction.
Who's going to hang out at the testing center? That's what it sounds like. Sounds like somebody gonna post up outside the testing center.
I will post a tent right there at the testing center because they leave there with no idea.
Yeah.
It's the truth. Here, I'm here in California, you know, and there's one central place where they all take the test. And I was like, we all left the same. Where do I go next? What do I do next? Now, obviously, my ambitions are different than everybody else's, and everybody's business acumen is different. But I feel like that's why I'm just like so baffled. Like, why is it such a challenge? Like and that's why I've been having those natural conversations with people. Like, just come on, let's just be successful.
Yeah, and therein lies the opportunity, right? There's going to be tons of curiosity, tons of people that are open to conversations, and often they're waiting for us to initiate those.
Yep.
So it becomes systematic where the more conversations you have, you can start to create that predictability and you can start to really blow out this business. So there's a lot more to this, guys, but at least for this 1 hour, I feel pretty awesome. And thank you guys for your contributions, that we at least initiated some thoughts and hopefully you guys had some takeaways from this. But keep coming back to this conversation. Like every time we're on these builders call, and thank you, Selena and Casey, for continuing this opportunity for us to just share and expand with each other. So thank you guys so much for your time.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, team.
Bye, guys.
Will, Cindy, team, appreciate you guys. Thank you guys.
See you next time.
Take care.